We'll now call to order the City of Abilene, Kansas City Commission meeting for April 27th, 2026. Shayla, may we please have a roll call?
Mayor Ryan.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Present.
Commissioner Lytle.
Yeah.
Mr. Meisenberg.
Here.
Roll call's complete.
Okay, if we could please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first item is approval of today's agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda for April 27th, 2026, City Commission meeting.
I second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, would a roll call vote? Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is the consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes for the April 13th, 2026 regular meeting, appropriation ordinance A-042726-26, AP payment register, and reappointment of Jill Goldsmith and Megan Powell to the library board, terms expiring April 2030.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, would a roll call vote? Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item under heading 6, public comments communications, is 6A, a public forum. If there's anyone here that would like to address an item that's not on our current agenda, they may do so at this time. Okay. Seeing none, we will move to item 6B, which is recognition of Lauren Goodale, winner of the League of Kansas Municipalities Local Leaders of Tomorrow 7th grade essay contest. So the league puts on an essay contest every year, and Lauren won the North Central Regional piece of that with a essay titled "Supporting Seniors with Healthcare Challenges in Abilene." So I won't read the whole thing in front of everyone, but just wanted to congratulate you for winning that essay contest, and you did a great job. And I'm gonna take a picture and everything.
Are we all getting?
Let's all join them.
Yeah.
One, two. One, two.
Yeah, very cool.
Congratulations.
Then our next item is 6C, it's a proclamation, Sexual Assault Awareness Month proclamation. I have Jacqueline Lawrence with DVAC here, but okay. Yep.
It's my first one, so.
Might make sure that mic's on too. Yep. There you go. You can state your real name.
Okay, my name's Cayman Munson. I am the victim advocate at DVAC. And they kind of threw me in the fire, so I'm here today. And this is the Sexual Assault Awareness Month, April 2026. Whereas April is recognized nationwide as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, dedicated to increasing public awareness about sexual violence, supporting survivors, and promoting prevention efforts. And whereas sexual assault is a serious and widespread issue affecting individuals of all ages, background, and identities, often occurring alongside domestic violence and other forms of abuse. And whereas in Kansas, 977 incidents of sexual assault were reported in 2024, with one rape reported every 8 hours, 57 minutes, and 58 seconds, and law enforcement making one arrest for rape approximately every 2 days, 19 hours, 23 minutes, and 31 seconds. And whereas DVAC provides vital advocacy and supporting services to survivors of sexual assault and domestic violences throughout the region. And whereas from January through December 2025, DVAC served 132 survivors of domestic violence across 19 countries who also experience sexual violence in their relationships, including but not limited to 96 survivors from Saline County and 4 survivors from out of state, with 55 survivors receiving safe shelter services. And whereas DVAC also supported 89 survivors who primary victimization was sexual assault across 12 counties, including but not limited to 63 survivors of Saline County and 2 survivors from out of state, with 21 survivors provided safe shelter. And whereas these numbers do not just serve as a statistic, but represent individuals whose lives have been impacted by violence and who show resilience, strength, and courage in their healing journeys. And whereas communities play a vital role in preventing sexual violence by fostering education, awareness, and a culture of respect while ensuring survivors have access to trauma-informed care and support. Now, therefore, let it be proclaimed that DVAC, hereby April 2026, is recognized as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and be it further proclaimed that all residents are encouraged to support survivors, promote prevention efforts, and work collectively to end sexual violence in our community.
Thank you. We've got a signed version too, if you want to come up for a picture.
Sure.
One, two, three. One, two.
Okay, under heading 7, unfinished business, we first have 7A, consider approval of ordinance number 26-3480, an ordinance authorizing the sale of alcoholic liquor in a portion of the city-owned parking lot and the consumption of alcoholic liquor in specified portions of the abutting public alley in North Spruce Street in Abilene, Kansas, and approving the temporary closure of such portions of the alley in North Spruce Street in connection with a special event hosted by Rackets Tap House, Inc. on May 23rd through 24th, 2026. City Clerk Moore.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is for the Schools Out Fest hosted by Rackets on May 23rd and 24th. Due to them closing streets and being on public property, they have to have this ordinance in order to get their extension of their ordinance or of their liquor license from the state.
Can you help clarify for me on the map here? I guess my concern is that it looks like it includes Spruce Street, but then also additional space. And I guess my concern is that it's going to include the sidewalks in front of other drinking establishments.
I assume since they're closing all of Spruce Street, it probably would include that, but they did get signatures from all local businesses that were in their surrounding area that they approved the street closure.
I guess I'm not so much concerned about the street closure, but my concern is that they would not be closing the sidewalk in front of other drinking establishments. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I can tell you that they have to have this 10 days before they're can send it in to send to the state. So
I think I'm fine with closing the street. I would just want to make sure we keep that sidewalk
Yeah.
open and available. I know there's been some.
I would imagine it'll just be barriers at the 4th Street and 3rd Street, and then everything else will be open.
Okay. I know there was a little bit of heartache the last time there was an event that closed down the streets with those other establishments that weren't part of it. So I just want to make sure we're sensitive to
Yeah,
that.
the street closure request was signed by all the area businesses and approved by all city departments. So
Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm 100% on board with everything. I just want to make sure that the other businesses don't lose access or don't feel encumbered.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 26-3480, an ordinance authorizing the sale of alcoholic liquor in a portion of the city-owned parking lot and the consumption of alcoholic liquor in specific portions of the budding public alley in North Spruce Street in Abilene, Kansas. And approving the temporary closure of such portions of the alley and North Spruce Street in connection with the special event hosted by Rackets Tap House Inc. on May 23rd and 4th of 2026.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Kolhoff.
Aye.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is 7B, consider approval to apply for FAA AIP grant, 8-place T-hanger project, K78, interim city manager Quinde.
Yeah, before I start that, do you mind if I tell Lauren, great job on your essay? I got a chance to read it. And after 3 decades in municipal service, you're definitely going to be a future leader. It was really great. I appreciated it, especially for old people like me. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. The next 3 items on the agenda are all tied together as part of the airport T-hanger project. City's been working on for several years. The first item is a request for approval to apply for the FAA Airport Improvement Program grant for the 8-place T-hanger project. This step allows the city to pursue the federal funding to offset the cost of the project. The anticipated FAA participation is $942,757, which would cover a significant portion of the eligible project cost. I put on the dais where the commissioners are an updated funding plan. After we received notice from KDOT on Thursday or Friday, after the packet went out, Brian Combs with Olson reached out to KDOT and said that the price of the project went up and asked for additional funding. And just because he asked and made that effort, KDOT is adding another $40,000 to our grant. So definitely showing that Brian and Kelsey are doing a great job working for us. The application that is in your packet does not reflect that $40,000. And those would be on page 46, 51, and 52. Those numbers will be updated to reflect the additional KDOT funding, which lowers our share by $40,000. Approval of the item does not obligate the city to spend the funds. It simply allows us to move forward with the application and position the project for the federal support we're seeking. It'll help us reduce reliance on local funding while still allowing us to improve the airport facilities and get those much needed hangars built. The application is due on May 1st, and we're asking the commission to authorize the submission of the grant application and authorize the mayor to execute the required documents.
Any questions for staff?
We've got the document that you prepared in front of us here. I'm seeing KDOT KAIP. Does this document reflect this grant that you're,
Yes, the 900 and some $1,000 should be reflected on there.
okay, that's the FAA share? That's what we're applying for?
The 942,757,
Okay.
yes,
So that's what we're applying for with this?
that's what this is for.
Okay,
The KDOT grant and the updated one is now 332,370. That's the amount that the governor announced last week for us. So the city's share is now reduced down to the 332,373 for 8 place hangars.
I think this is still a big question mark for me, is there was there were insurance funds that I think is just about that, maybe not quite $332,000 that had mysteriously disappeared. Have we identified where those funds have gone?
They were placed into the airport's operating fund and they were spent. Where? I don't know. They weren't put into an insurance reserve or into a special fund to hold them back. They were just deposited into the airport operating fund. And I believe because there was no funds levied for the airport, they were used to operate the airport.
Do we have, I mean, it sounds like you've done some work around that. Is there a detailed accounting of that?
Just the operating budget, just where it was deposited and then what was spent every month.
Do we, I think the other, I guess, important piece for me is that the leases go to pay off that $332,000, do we have a plan for making sure that happens?
That would be a decision for the future, or for the commission to make in the future, be a policy decision on what those fee schedules would be. Currently, it's $90 a month. If you take the city share of the 332,000, assuming a 20-year at 4% amortization, you're looking at about $252 a month you'd have to charge for the hangars. If you did not factor in any interest and you amortized it, you would be looking at $173 a month to recoup those costs over 20 years.
Have there been any discussions? I know we've got Mr. Price here this afternoon. Have there been any discussions with, I think there were some other folks who had leased those hangars previously about what they would be willing to pay? That $252 seems like a steal for that amount of storage space, but I know that that's not reflected in other hangar rental rates throughout the state. So I'm just kind of curious if what your thoughts are, or if you've got if your committee has had a chance to address that. I guess that for me, before I can approve anything like that, I guess I would want to know, that's maybe more on the next item, I guess, but I would want to know that we've got a mechanism to pay for it.
I've not had any conversation with the Airport Advisory Board. I know that they addressed that last year when the commission was talking about whether or not to go after 6 hangars or 8 hangars. I think there was some opposition from those present to increasing that. And it was decided that it would be addressed once whether 6 hangars or 8 hangars was decided moving forward. But those rates are set by the city commission in that fee schedule.
Yeah, so I think on this item, I think it's a resounding yes. We want to apply for those funds, but I think this project is dead in the water without them. I guess I'd make a motion to approve the application for the FAA AIP grant 8-place T hangar project.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Kolhoff,
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is 7C, consider approval of the low responsive bid from Votes Construction Company in the amount of $1,484,186 for the construction of an 8-place T hangar at the Abilene Municipal Airport. Interim City Manager Quinde.
Yeah, after opening bids and reviewing all the bids, we're recommending approval of the low responsive bid from Voights Construction. The low bid followed the appropriate competitive process, and they met all the requirements to be considered the lowest responsible bidder. We're asking that you approve this low bid contingent upon concurrence from the FAA and approval of the FAA grant that you just approved us to apply for. This will ensure alignment with the federal funding requirements before proceeding. With those contingencies in place, the approval allows us to stay on schedule and move into construction upon FAA approval and receiving those funds from them and KDOT.
Questions for staff on this item?
What would be the drop dead date to approve that contract without having a mechanism in place to pay for that $332,000?
To approve the Voight contract?
Right, so this is, you're asking for approval contingent on the
FAA
grant,
grant.
the FAA grant. So I guess I would like it also to be contingent upon an approved funding fee schedule mechanism to help pay that $332,000 that we clearly don't have in our bank account.
You have the funds set aside from reallocated funds. You reallocated $575,000. So you wouldn't be taking all of that. The bid will be good for 30 days. I believe this is the date. If we don't accept the bid, we'll have to go back out and rebid.
What's the expected timeline for the FAA approval on the grant? Do you have anything in mind?
No, the way the federal government operates nowadays, no. This has been part of the airport improvement plan. So this is a project they're aware of. They're aware of the cost, and Brian with Olson has been in regular contact with them. I hate to use the word, but applying for that grant is basically a formality. So. and
John, I am online if if y'all
there
can
you
hear me.
go.
If there's any feedback that I can provide, I'm happy to. Apologize, I wasn't able to be there in person today.
Yeah, the question is, you have an estimate of how long you would hear until you hear from the FAA on the airport improvement grant?
Sure. Yeah, and just a refresher of how these work, they're slightly different from what your historical context of a grant is. In the FAA world, the grant is essentially the contract that they use to transfer the funds to the city. So as John mentioned, we've been in conversations with the FAA for years. And so the 942,000 that we're applying for with this grant, we've confirmed with them as recently as last week that that's available and that it will be awarded. So the grant is, as John mentioned, somewhat not necessarily a formality, but those funds are available and we will receive them, if we apply. And typically, we would expect that that grant offer, which is essentially the written contract from the FAA to you for those funds, would come sometime around mid-July. For projects of this, maybe even a little sooner, at which point you could accept the grant offer and then the funds would be available for use at that 95-5 split for that first 942,000. And then maybe just a slight clarification, our bid hold is actually 90 days. So we're anticipating that grant period, but the contractor has to honor those bid prices for a 90-day period, and that would give us time to receive that grant offer, accept it, and then issue a notice of award, would be the way that process would historically have happened.
Brian, once the notice of award is issued, what's the construction timeframe until substantial completion?
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
Is your mic on? Is your microphone on?
Yes. From the time we give a notice to proceed until substantial completion, how many days is that?
We've allowed 150 calendar days from the notice to proceed to substantial completion, but there can be a pretty significant gap on a project like this from when we would award the contract to when we would issue the notice to proceed. We would expect for them to procure their materials, particularly the building, and have that on hand really before we started. So we would anticipate construction starting in spring of 27. And then once construction commences, they'd have 150 calendar days to complete the project.
Thank you. And the reason I ask is that would give the commission time to look at and discuss what you want to do with the fee for renting the hangars.
Brian, when does that 90 days start for approval of this contract?
It started on the day of the bid opening.
Last Thursday, I believe.
Yes, which would have been correct, the 21st.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess I would like to have that agreement in place before we approve this. If there is going to be funds that are going to come out of the general fund that aren't supported by the rentals, I think we owe it to our constituents to know what that is. And I think if we've got 90 days, there's no urgency to pass this today.
Yeah. You said agreement. I'm not sure what you mean by approving the agreement. Are you just talking about updating the fee schedule?
Well, I think we need some buy-in from the people who would be leasing those properties. I guess I assume most everybody who would lease those is probably on your board or 1 degree separated from them. So I think if we can get that from those individuals, I think I'd be good to go on this.
So buy-in, you want to know what they're willing to pay or what we need to break even after a certain period of time? It's, I think if you ask them for buy-in, last budget season, I believe they said $90. But if you're looking at what are we going to do to break even, is that 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? I plugged in 20 just because, just nice even number. But
yeah, I'd like to have all those details figured out. I mean, if they're only willing to pay $90, I think we have to ask our constituents, are you ready to subsidize the rest of it? I mean, to me, that's the conversation that needs to happen before we rubber stamp this.
do you have, Jim, 8 people identified that's going to rent them? 'Cause I don't know who I'd reach out to.
Do I have 8 people?
Yeah,
No, I wish Mr. Curtis was here, because I think he probably does, but.
okay. Because I mean, I'd have to know who to reach out to and ask them, what are you willing to do, I guess, if that's what you're asking me to do.
I don't know that it needs to be you, but I mean, if Mr. Curtis is the right person, if he had those 8 people and said, hey, if the rent was 273, are you signing the lease? I'd say we're good to go.
And if they say no,
Then we have another discussion about this, I guess. We've got,
Okay.
I mean, like I said, we've got 3 months to do it. But I think that if we need to have a discussion with the airport board or, with the members of the public who might be renting those, I think that gives us plenty of a timeline to do that.
right, would that hypothetically, if you were at impasse, just say that everybody's, I'm not just gonna rent it for that, hypothetically. Are you gonna, is your thought then you don't build the hangars? You reject this? It's really, if your plan is to build them regardless, I don't see an issue with awarding the contract contingent on FAA funding. Recouping that, you have time to have those conversations, even invite the airport board and those folks here to have a joint meeting with the city commission to discuss it. Get their feedback, your feedback. It's open to the public. It's televised.
I guess this is my thinking, and I'm the only one talking, so I'd like to hear from some other people here. But if we're going to approve it regardless, I think we change the lease rate regardless and just say, hey, here's what it's going to take to pay for it. This is what it's going to be. If we want to have a discussion, I think we have the discussion. But if we're going to rubber stamp this, I think we rubber stamp the rate change to pay for it. And I still think 273 is a ridiculously inexpensive rate for a place that can hold an airplane. So
What do you, by rubber stamping the bids? I'm not sure what you mean. by
approval. If we're going to approve this, I think we need to also approve
Okay.
the rate change that will pay for it. And I think there's a gentleman back here that might want to speak.
Yeah,
If you want to speak, you need to come.
Do you
gotta-
want to take
gotta
the
come to the
microphone,
mic.
sorry?
Jeremy Gorman, I'm one of the airport board members. The reality is that's not a competitive rate. It's just not for the local area. I know it seems inexpensive to you for what that is, but it's not a competitive rate. It's way less than that in Salina. It's way less than that in Junction City. It's way less than that in, other airports that are similar. So I'm not going to say for sure that everybody's going to say no to that, but I have a strong inkling that they would probably not agree to that.
Jeremy, do you have rough numbers of what like Salina or Junction City?
Not Salina specifically. I can tell you exactly what we charge over in Junction City is 125 a month is what we get over in Junction City. So that is going to go up a little bit fairly soon. Manhattan Airport, for the new hangars that they built over there, they're getting 180, I believe, is what they're getting. So that's gone up a little bit, but
And-
that's a different type of hangar than what we're talking about here as well. So
So
it's more of a consolidated. Do what?
So the hangars in Manhattan that you were referencing, those are they're a little different than what we've got here.
They are, yeah, they
Okay.
are different. Mhm, mhm. Yeah, they're where the aircraft are kind of combined with one another as opposed to individual. Well, I believe they actually, Brian could probably talk to this a little bit more. I did believe they built some T hangars over there. I know for sure they're also building some up in Clay Center as we speak. Those ones are almost complete, I believe, up there. So, and their rate, I believe, I don't want to quote what that rate was going to be, but it was nowhere near the 200 and what did you take? 270 some odd dollars.
I think there's kind of a range there, like kind of depending on what we use for a payment cycle and that sort of thing.
Right.
I guess that's kind of where I think maybe the discussion would be useful.
Yeah.
I'd also
I
like to
mean-
have kind of really hard numbers from, again, I don't know that it matters what other airports are charging. I do think, like Salina is probably using old infrastructure from 1945 that they're leasing out, and we're building new hangars in 2027. So I don't think that
Sure.
that's going to be comparable either.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it for sure.
Jim Price, I'm the chairman of the board. And I think what you're missing the point here, John, is that the FAA does not expect you to charge enough to make this paid off in 10 years or whatever. They think that it should be a relative price that the community and the people that want to use it can afford. To me, $250 is outlandish. I can get a hangar in Ellsworth for $50. But then Ellsworth is not Abilene, and I appreciate that. $90 is what we were paying when I had a hangar that blew away. And it was good value. But it was also a wooden building that we built back in 85, et cetera, et cetera. City had very little money involved in it to start with. And when the insurance money come in, the city didn't really take care of that insurance money. So I don't know why we want to turn right around and start charging the user for somebody else's false economy. The FAA, if you start charging too much, will want to pull the money out from underneath you, and the airport will be sitting there as a ghost town. And I realize you guys think airplane. My airplane's $30,000, and it's older than you are. Much older than you are. But I can't afford anything else. And it flies and it keeps me in the air. All I need to do is keep the sun and the weather off of it. Now, some other people in this community have a nice hangar by themselves, but they've got $400,000 in the airplane too. I'll bet you anybody that's got a vehicle sitting up here right now paid more than $30,000 for it. And it's probably much newer than my airplane. The FAA doesn't expect you to take their money and turn right around and pay off your share of it just because. And is that the way you understand it too? Because they'll want to say, okay, your community, though it's close to Salinas, close to Junction City, et cetera, what can the community and the users actually afford? And it might not pay it off in, would you think, 20 years?
Yeah, I just figured 20. I mean,
Yeah.
you could make that 30 or 40 years.
Well, in fact, the silly things were built in 85, the ones that blew away. So, I mean, you know, they're there for a long time, and all the money that came in off of it. Every building on that airport is privately owned on leased property with the exception of the maintenance building. And all of those people are paying money every year in property tax and money back to the city. I have no idea where that's going, but I'm sure part of it would pay back towards this 200,000 or whatever it is you're talking about too. But if you don't care about the airport, and it's really a nice airport right now, if we don't get more traffic in and out, it won't be. Come out this weekend, there's supposed to be a dozen people flying in and going to the Eisenhower Center and stuff. So that should generate a buck or two for this community. But, you know, come out and see us. Anybody else got a question?
Jim, do you have a figure in mind that would be?
Well, I figured $125, $150 would be about right, be about the right amount of market that we've had over the years.
Jim, not to interrupt you, but if you figure it's 30 years for a building, that young man back there said his hangar's 70 years old, but if you figure 30 years, then that number drops down to 150, 140s.
In fact, the hangar that he's in was built in 52. 52 or 1952.
That's older than me.
Yeah. My mother ran that airport when it first opened in Junction City. That's the reason I know a thing about it. So, but I don't think you can put a dollar in and a dollar out on this deal, John. I really don't.
Well, I mean, I think
And if that's the only way you'll vote it, sorry about it.
well, I think that's the reason for having the conversation. I mean, I think it's very clear that the FAA is willing to support this. If they're throwing $972,000 and the state's throwing another $300-some thousand at it, there's obviously a lot of support for it. But I do think that it is something that benefits a very small portion of Abilene directly. And even the indirect benefit to the community might be hard to quantify. So I guess this is my feeling. There's 4 others up here, but I would like to know that we've got a way to pay for it that isn't coming out of the general fund to subsidize that.
I should have talked to that pharmacist some years ago that wanted to learn to fly. You remember him? Maybe he'd have a different attitude.
I don't think so.
You don't think you
I
would?
still think you got to pay your bills.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, and I'm glad we had that conversation because in my head, I kind of had around 150 because it's going to be a brand new facility.
Right.
Yeah.
Am I under the right assumption that the 332,000 that we've got in reserve to help pay for this should have been there from insurance?
Not the full amount. It was 100 and I believe 70 or $80,000. This damage occurred in 2019.
21.
I believe it was 250.
Was it
I believe it was north of 200 anyway.
Yeah, December of 21.
21? And then when the insurance finally settled, probably in 22 or 23, that was just put into the airport operating fund. And so it sits there as cash carryover, and the city did not levy any funds for the airport, which burnt that down. Basically using reserves, but they weren't reserves, they were insurance. That's the best I can track it.
I don't feel like that's a satisfying enough answer for me. I don't know if any of my fellow commissioners would like a more robust accounting for that.
I
I
don't know.
mean,
what it-
to me, I'm just going to tell you what I'm hearing. And what the airport is hearing, what I'm hearing from the airport is that the city spent it. And what I'm hearing from Mr. Quinde is that the airport spent it. And so I think that that's an important distinction if we're going to be making decisions about $250,000.
Well, I can tell you that the money was deposited in the airport operating fund, and prior to my arrival, the airport was allowed to make purchases and do anything they wanted with those funds until I got here and stopped that and made them follow the procurement policy. So until then, I can't give you an accounting. I can tell you the money was put there and it was spent from there. But the oversight to the airport, and I know it probably upset some people out there, but they have to no longer just go buy things and order things, and they have to go through the city's procurement policy. They've been turned off their city credit card because they're not city employees. They have to use a designated one for the city. So we can control things like that. Can't speak to you what happened before I got here.
Is the airport on our standard accounting software?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, there is a record of everything that was spent and there, I mean, we could get a detailed ledger of the whatever amount it was going in and everything getting subtracted out between 2021 and today.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Okay.
it's going to be volumes of pages, but yeah, it would be in, and since I've been here, it'd be in every packet you've had under the appropriation ordinance and the detailed listing you've got. But what happened before I got here on July of 2025, I can't tell you. I'm still trying to figure some of that out. But I don't know that you're going to be able to tie whatever amount was deposited over a 4 or 5 year period to this came from that 250,000. It goes into the airport operating fund, which is one line item, and then they just have an expenditure line item. They don't have the detailed lines like we do.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was asking. Why is that they don't have the detailed lines like the rest of the city?
Because before I got here, they didn't code anything. They just charged it to the airport. And that's, you know, that's not Jim's fault or anybody. It's just how the organization was operated. So I'll have Kelsey from the date that was deposited until today and give you an accounting of every receipt and expenditure if you'd like to look through it. But I won't be able to tie dollar to dollar. That money was spent before I got here. Again, because we were trying to maintain revenue neutral, so nothing was levied. So that's what they were using to operate out of.
I think that'd be helpful if you can have Kelsey just send it out to us.
Yep.
I guess I would make a motion to table this for 30 days or till then, 2 meetings from today. And I guess with the direction, I'd like to have some interface with Mr. Curtis and maybe members of the airport board to see if we can right size this. And I guess before I forget, Brian, do you have any hard data on T-Hanger or similar rental rates in our neighborhood?
I don't off the top of my head. We have done some research for some other communities I could see about pulling some of that data. I think the numbers that were being recited in the meeting would have matched my expectation from what I recall seeing, but I would hesitate to put a number out here, but yes, that's something we could get.
Thank you.
Brian, when we met with the bids, there was some sort of deadline with the grant. Does that affect this at all? If this isn't approved today and it goes for 30 more days? No.
May 1st is the FAA grant deadline.
Okay. I just
Need to
wanted to make
submit
sure.
the FAA grant by May 1st. Most of the communities I've been through, these, items happen concurrently, but there are times where we've submitted the grant application and then brought the award of the contract, acceptance of the grant, and construction phase services for approval at a later meeting date. So it wouldn't be unprecedented, as long as Mr. Quinde has the authority to move forward with submitting that grant application.
Yeah, Brian, before you dialed in, they approved applying for the grant and the mayor to execute the required documents.
Yeah, I actually was online for that as well.
Okay.
So yes.
So I guess if the desire of the full body is to interface, as Commissioner Kohoff phrased it, with the airport board and others impacted, do you want to schedule a joint meeting with them? So you're all involved? Or do we approve these things and you have that discussion and get what you, or do you tell us that you want the money returned over 30 years or 40 years, 20 years, 10 years? And that's easy enough to figure out what that rent would be. If that's your goal, is just to recover the money over a certain period of time.
I think kind of the problem with that is that unless it matches the bonds, if that's the pool of money that we're going to use that underlie it, unless it matches that term, we're still subsidizing it on a cash flow basis. And we would have some flexibility on what type of a bond, and I don't know if we can separate that out individually. Mr. Quinde, is that something that?
When you issue the bonds, I'm sure you can. I don't anticipate that the city will issue general obligation bonds until 2029.
But we could as soon as 2027, correct?
You could if you want to start making principal and interest payments. But remember, you borrowed $1 million, so you didn't have to until 2029. So you're leaving that there.
We would save on that, though. We're only paying for what we actually.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to check with Brian. I think early redemption is March of 2027. I'm not positive on the month, but I think it's March 2027. You could easily do that. Financially, is the city in a position to start making payments on those? Not with the current finances that you have now.
Well, I mean, I think you're really just kicking the can down the road then, aren't you? I mean, I think your point is well taken, right? We don't have the cash to do it, but we're just sitting on a credit card to allow us that flexibility. That doesn't really change our underlying financial position. It's just that we've got a loan to be able to pay the bills.
With the exception that depending on what later in the meeting, what your budget goals are. If the commission's desire is to stay revenue neutral, then you're never going to be able to do it. Or, I mean, staff has to know what your goals are as a body before we can bring you a budget that says, hey, we can afford to start paying this off in 2027, or we can't because of A, B, and C. So, whenever we get to that point, does the commission want us to get back to the fund balance policy that you have of 15%? Do you want us to start putting money aside in capital improvement and equipment reserve as you have in the past, or continue deferring that? So those all play into when we'd be able to recommend that you can pay that off early. The target is March of 2029 because that's the road you sent us down. You can always take a left or right if you want.
Just an update, Kelsey's listening from afar, and she said that she's provided those numbers to you for the airport expenditures and that she will re-forward them, and that she also has comparisons of local hangar rentals that she'll send out.
Okay.
When is your next airport advisory meeting? Next Monday. Okay.
4 o'clock.
Okay, next Monday at 4 o'clock.
Did you say that's right here? Or next in the, okay.
So I guess if the intent of the commission is to proceed with the construction of the 8 place T hangars with the grant money from the FAA and KDOT, I would still recommend that you approve the boat construction contingent on the FAA approval. You've got a long time before you're going to be able to rent those out, have those discussions and set those fees. Same thing with the next item for the construction administration. And we were sending the whole package into the FAA. It's not required. Brian's already said that. It's common, but it's not unprecedented that you don't have these things taken care of when you submit. But if it's a question of maybe we don't do this because we can't come onto terms on what we're going to rent those out for, I mean, table it.
I think I have a motion on the floor.
Do you?
I believe I
okay.
made the motion.
Well,
Yeah.
you
Table this and-
started and then you went into something else. I wasn't sure if you actually were making it or not. So
Yeah.
I would have stopped it long ago if that was.
Okay, yeah, my motion is still to table this until the second meeting in May.
Can we consider approving the FFA grant and getting that started?
We did.
That one.
We-
That one's already
Yeah,
done.
That one's
Yeah.
done.
I think what the motion is right now is John wants to have a fee structure in place before we commit to spending the $1.48 million to Vought construction. Which I'm on the fence. I totally agree with what John says, but I do know that it's gonna get built regardless of how it's paid for, what fund it is paid for. I'm actually open either way because it'll get built. I would like to send it in personally. I would like to send it in all as one package as a standard process. That sounds like it's a SOP for them to send it in as an A, B, and C together. So that would be my preference is FAA sees it all at once. They see the approved construction package. That's my preference. And then we work with the airport board and find out how do we capitalize this airport? Is it 30 years? Is it 40 years? If the original airport was 85 and it didn't blow, I mean, that's 40 years and it would still be another 20, 30 until the next natural disaster. So you could capitalize that down for 50 years technically. So it will get paid back. It's just a matter of by who or what fund, in my opinion.
And once you,
We
it's
do,
how I
both.
see it.
we do have a motion on the table.
I think this is
still,
good
so
discussion on that motion.
It is,
I'm entertaining
yeah.
this.
Technically need a second if we're gonna discuss any. We have a motion on the floor to table it to the second meeting in May. Is that correct? Okay. So to have any further discussion, we would need a second to table it to the second meeting in May.
I'll rescind my motion, I guess, for the purpose of further discussion.
Okay, motion's rescinded.
I guess to your point, are you, if you're saying somebody's going to pay for it and we're going to build them anyway, I mean, are you also in favor of just changing the fee schedule so that that comes out of the rental rate, whatever we decide it to be? Because to me, that's really the,
It's definitely got to be within reason, within the area with what everybody's willing to pay. I think what I'm getting at is you can capitalize this airport a brand new airport hangar that's built in 2026 for 40 years out. And if it's a market rate, it's going to pay itself off eventually.
I guess the thing is really cash flow. So unless those bonds match that, we're subsidizing those monthly payments from the city general fund
Sure.
for the first, let's say we have a 20-year bond and a 40-year amortization schedule for the airport. We're basically using funds that could be used somewhere else to subsidize the airport for that
Right.
period of time.
I do understand that too.
I mean, I think that there's probably mechanisms where that works. If we're gonna subsidize it on the front end, we're gonna tax it on the back end. I think there's still ways we can make that work. Again, I think those are all just details that I would prefer to have ironed out before we sign a $1.5 million contract.
Yeah, that was kind of my point too, just when we were talking, because it's obviously going to increase a little bit. I mean, from $90, I think it needs to. Well, we can work out numbers and adjust that amortization period on the bonds for those with those numbers in mind. So it's not something we can't work out. And with you guys having a meeting next Monday, probably wouldn't have it worked out on Monday, but it can at least start the conversation and just kind of see the feelings on market rates and see if, it was $150 a month. Is that, you think we can get 8 people at that rate? I do too, but
if Jim thinks that he can get 8 people at $150, I think my number was 173 for 20 years. Is that something you just want to bring the fee schedule back and change at the next meeting?
I think if this commission is willing to approve $173 and it pays off in 20 years, I'd be more than happy to approve this today.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah, I would too.
Yep.
I'll make that motion. So the motion, so I'm clear, is to consider approval of the low bid from Votes Construction Company in the amount of $1.48 for $186 for the construction of an 8-place T hangar at the Abilene Municipal Airport, with the addition of adding the fee schedule change to $173 for the rental of such, or less than that if it will pay off in 20 years.
I'll second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any further commission discussion? I would have, I guess, preferred to have those discussions with the airport board to see if it's something that's actually they can sell. But I guess if you can't, you'll need to bring something back to us to down the road to adjust the fee schedule. Sure. So, any further commission discussion? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff,
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Next item is 7D, consider approval of amendment number 2 with Olson for construction administration services T hangar project. Interim City Manager Quinn Day.
Yeah, this amendment with Olson, if approved, provides professional engineering support during the construction phase, which includes construction inspection, coordination with the contractor, and ensuring compliance with the project specification and FAA requirements and reporting. As with item 7C, we're asking approval of this amendment contingent upon FAA concurrence and the FAA grant approval. This agreement will ensure construction oversight is aligned with the same federal requirements and funding approvals. And that will be everything that we'll need until we get the FAA grant funds, ADOT grant funds, and a notice to proceed.
Was this put out for bid?
No, there are engineers for the airport. That was something that commission approved unanimously in 2022 to make Olson our airport or the engineer for the airport projects.
Thank you.
I will add to muddy the water, but we're also having an independent fee assessment or estimate completed. It's required with federal grant dollars. So this would be the maximum, the amount that you're seeing in here. If that independent fee assessment came in and said, you know, it should be $110,000, that's what it has to be. And Olson knows that. Oh.
Further questions for staff on this item? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve amendment number 2 with Olson for construction admin services for the T hangar project.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Commissioner Koloff,
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is 7E, 2027 City Commission budget goals.
Right, now we shift into the goals for the 2027 budget. A lot of people think that the budget's just a 12-month planning project, but what the commission decides each year for a budget impacts future years, just put you on a trajectory. Before opening the discussion and getting the commission input, I did want to provide some brief context. From 2022 through 25, the city remained largely revenue neutral, which required the use of fund reserves to continue supporting operations. By 2025, most fund reserves were significantly depleted and on track to end the year in a negative balance. As a result, in July, we implemented immediate cost control measures, which included a hiring freeze, deferral of equipment purchases, and deferral of capital improvements not already obligated, and the reduction in force of one person at that time in Public Works. In developing the 2026 budget, the city moved away from the strict revenue neutrality that it had the previous several years to stabilize operations. The levy distribution, the 2025 levy for the 2026 budget ended up being a total of 48.039 mils after the evaluation was certified in November by the county clerk. Of that 48.039 mils, the general fund took up 34.5 mils or 72%. The general fund supports police, fire, streets, alleys, parks, levy maintenance, the pool, community development, inspection, municipal court, the senior center, and transfers to the equipment, reserve fund, and capital improvement. Debt service accounted for 2.75 mils or 6%. The library accounted for 8.22 mils or 17%. Fire apparatus was 2.4 mils or 5%. And $0 were levied for the airport, capital improvement, and equipment reserve in 2026. Rebuilding the reserve while maintaining current service levels will take multiple years, as was discussed during the last budget cycle. Moving forward, this will likely require incremental increases to revenue to keep pace with rising operating costs, restore fund balances to the minimum levels, and if directed by the commission, to start resuming transfers to the equipment reserve fund and capital improvement plan. Staff's focus for the last 10 months has been balancing three things: maintaining the services we provide, stabilizing finances, and rebuilding reserves. And as mentioned to the commission in July of last year, that will take time and deliberate decisions. In response to the question posed by the mayor at the last meeting about fee-based services and revenue opportunities, we've reviewed the current fee schedule and overall cost recovery. What we see is that many of the city's fees remain relatively modest and in some cases may not fully recover the cost of providing the service. So the opportunity is less about creating new fees and more about evaluating whether the existing fee schedule and fees are aligned with actual service cost. For example, the airport hangar rent is currently $90 a month. Many building and permit fees are $25. Parks and recreation rentals and tournament fees remain relatively low, and recycling is currently $275 a month. Individually, these may seem small, but collectively they indicate areas where cost recovery may not fully reflect the level of service being provided. One example of how this plays out in practice is the city's support of the fairgrounds and stadium associated with the Central Kansas Free Fair. Staff analysis shows the city is currently providing approximately $40,000 annually in labor, equipment, and materials to support those operations. Importantly, those costs are not limited to the fair itself, but they include ongoing year-round maintenance such as mowing, spraying, trash pickup, and other operational support, in addition to the peak cost during the fair. When compared to the 1996 agreement, the original intent was far more limited. Fair-related use of the facilities, primarily tied to timing of the fair, with the Fair Association responsible for most maintenance and the city maintaining the stadium building. Over time, however, the use of the facilities evolved to more continuous year-round use, while the city continues to absorb a significant portion of the operational and maintenance costs. This is one example of a broader theme that we see. Services continue or have expanded over time. Costs have increased, but in some cases, revenues and fee structures have not kept pace. As a result, the costs ultimately fell back on the general fund and then the property tax levy. I would note that we've met with the Central Kansas Free Fair Board and are discussing that now and working out a way that they can maximize the use of those facilities year round and that we can offset some of our costs with them. Very productive meeting we had a week and a half ago during their meeting. Basically memorializing what's going on now and trying to recover some of the city's costs. As we look ahead to the 2027 budget, it's really about the improving cost recovery where appropriate, ensuring that user-based services are supported by user-based revenues, and aligning our agreements, fees, and operations with current realities. With that context in mind, we're looking to the commission for direction on priorities and expectations as we begin developing the 2027 budget. And I did include the current fee schedule, which you adopted at the beginning of this year for your review. We have any input from the commission on your goals and priorities?
I do have a question regarding the water cost of service and the sewer cost of service that we just enacted. How is that going to affect the upcoming budget as far as the increased rates and the sewer and water not getting depleted?
That will make them in the black.
Okay, and how will that relate to the general fund?
It does not. Well, didn't say it does not. As part of the budget process, cities transfer a share or money from the general fund, from the utility to the general fund, similar to what a private utility would pay. So if Water One, say in Johnson County, was operating here, they would pay the city, say, a 5% franchise fee. We transfer that amount, which we did in 25 for the 26 budget. We budgeted 5% of gross revenues for each utility to be transferred from the utility to the general fund, which just counts as revenue to offset or lower the property.
I guess what I'm hearing, Simon, I don't mean to jump on you here, but those were both being subsidized by the general fund. So that subsidy should go away. So the amount that was coming out of the general fund that was subsidizing those utilities is no longer going to be a negative for the general fund, but it'll be a break even plus the franchise fee for the city.
No, the general fund has not subsidized the utilities. We've not transferred money from the general fund to the water fund or to the sewer fund. It's vice versa.
Okay.
The water fund has transferred 5% of its gross revenues to the general fund.
So we were using water and sewer reserves basically to make up that deficit in the meantime.
It's just common practice for cities with utilities, whether it's water, sewer, or electric.
I guess I'm not sure you understand what I'm saying. So for the last 3 or 4 years, both the water and the sewer have been running at a deficit,
Yeah,
an operating deficit.
correct.
Correct. And what my understanding is that had to be subsidized somewhere. That's a fact. Was that coming out of the general fund or was that coming from the reserves from each respective utility?
From the reserves from each respective utility.
Okay.
That's what puts you in the position that you're in.
Okay.
And the reason that those rates had to go up so significantly. It's not illegal or a budget violation to transfer money between utilities and the general fund, but it's highly discouraged that you use a utility to support the general fund or vice versa, because they become so unbalanced that at some point one's going to collapse. They should be distinct, separate functions as far as budgeting. So they do not impact the property tax levy in the general fund unless the commission were to reduce or increase the amount transferred from the utility to the general.
Okay. And as far as the reserves, they were running out, correct? On both of them, both the sewer and the water?
All your funds.
Yeah, but more specifically, the ones that we raised though with the sewer and the water, they were out, right? So it's gonna have to get subsidized somehow, and it's the increase.
The increase that you approved for the water and the wastewater will negate those negative. You were projected to be in the negative
Right.
without increasing those.
Correct.
Now that you have increased those, we still have to be fiscally conservative and, but they should not be in the red. And it's allowing you to transfer money into a reserve for those infrastructure over the years.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
And then the general fund in 2025 was going to end in the negative. We made all those freezes and cut that position, hiring freeze, didn't buy anything. And had to actually work hard to budget for a $290,000 cash carryover, which we made, but it's not where you need to be at that 15%.
Yeah.
I'll tell you my preference, and I don't know if it's possible, but can you remind me, I guess, what you were able to cut? I know some of that was just delaying certain expenditures, but what were you able to cut last year to keep us from being taken over by the state?
I eliminated a position in Public Works. Enacted a hiring freeze. We also cut all spending unless it was absolutely necessary. And then we reviewed not all, but a majority of our agreements. For example, Sangoma, I can't know if I'm saying that, the phone, we got them to reduce, I don't remember that percentage, 30, 40%, that annual cost. Same thing with Vive. We only got them down 10%. But those types of items, we did not transfer in 26. There is no money scheduled to be transferred into capital improvement. And there's money scheduled to be transferred into equipment reserve, but those are for already obligations you've already committed to.
What was that total dollar reduction that you were able to achieve?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. I'm thinking it was
$800,000.
$850,000, I believe.
Well, I'd like you to do that again.
I don't, well, I wish I could, but there's no way to do it again. I mean, there is a way to do it again, but not a budget that I would bring you. Only because unless you tell me what services you want to stop and get rid of. Is my 3 months has been extended a little bit, but there are some, and we've gone back and forth about organizational assessment. I've had enough time now that I'm seeing things, and there's still some room for some cost savings and some restructuring. But the staff and the operations now are running at bare bones. We're not putting money away for equipment. We're not sending people to training unless it's something that they need. For example, the police officer is required to have 40 hours of annual training. Kelsey she's online, but she is at a finance course conference. Some of that stuff we still do. We're looking at grants, but they're operating at bare bones now.
And if I remember correctly, did the employees not get a cost of living raise this past year?
Correct.
Yeah, and that bothers me because I know all of our costs went up.
Yes.
And so I would somehow like to see them get that this next year. So
I guess you said something there that I really liked, and that's we weren't spending any money unless it was absolutely necessary, which I think should be our MO 365 days a year. Again, I don't know that it's possible, but I think we should shoot for a 5% cut across the board and then put that money into reserves while remaining revenue neutral. And I don't know, I asked, and I unfortunately haven't had the time to review it, but I got a list of all the equipment. But what I don't think was included in that was the actual usage of that equipment. So there's, unfortunately, I think there's like 370 items on that piece of paper, but if we had information from our department heads on, what do we have and what are we doing with it? I think we could probably thin out the herd a little bit and determine, what we need to own and what we could potentially rent or do without, frankly. I mean, I think we really need to we should be 100% efficient 100% of the time. I mean, I think that should be the goal. And so looking at every single expenditure, every single piece of equipment, and only keeping what we absolutely need.
Well, I can tell you that my experience with your department directors and staff, the last 8, 9, I don't know how long I've been here, but since I've been here, they are doing that. They've made cuts where I didn't realize we could make cuts. They have found funding or ways to get things get them completed that I didn't know that we could do it that way. Even had people at a water conference meeting with vendors, and instead of us spending $10,000 to seal your storm sewer manholes, which you have a whole bunch that need it, we found a way we can get that done for $4,000 a manhole. So they're out there looking for it. But to say that to be revenue neutral when our property insurance goes up and basically everything is going up, to do that and be revenue neutral is not realistic unless we get direction on what services you want to cut. You'll have to cut some kind of service. I mean, you don't have that many employees. You're a town of 6,400, 6,800, and you have 50 some employees. The town I came from was 4,400 and has over 100. You're at bare bones.
Well, you have an additional utility as well.
but it doesn't take 50 people to run.
Right. So I mean, I'm just saying, we're not comparing apples to apples. I
Well,
guess
it-
I would ask you to, I mean, it sounds like the staff here and the ones who aren't here have done a phenomenal job at cutting those costs. I would just ask you to go back to them and say, hey, if your directive is to cut 5%, how do you do it? What equipment do you absolutely need? What equipment sits on the shelf 364 days a year? And can we get it somewhere else? You know,
I would
uh,
argue that we're doing that daily,
okay, I guess let's see what that looks like in a budget.
but I need to know from you what your priorities are. Are your priorities to put money away for capital improvements or to continue deferring capital expenditures? Is your priority to start putting money away for equipment or deferring any equipment purchases? Is your priority to continue funding, I call them outside entities, maybe not the right term, but Sister City and the band and those types of things? Are those your priorities? Is your priority to provide staff with a cost of living allowance? Is your priority to work on more streets? Those are the types of things we have to know to make those numbers in that work. But I mean, just going in and say, let's cut 5%, be revenue neutral. I mean, it's math. You can make it happen. But to make it happen, I didn't know what services we cut. If that's the goal of the whole commission, is to be revenue neutral and cut 5%, or even just being revenue neutral.
I guess, again, I'm asking you to talk to your staff and say, what services are they providing? Where can we nip and tuck? I guess I just have a hard time believing that we could cut $800,000 emergently and we don't have a single penny that we can cut with plenty of time to plan.
You cut $800,000 emergently, but then we had to come back and say, can we reallocate $1.5 million because some of those were things that we deferred. When I talk about $800,000 that was cut, I'm not talking about $800,000 in gas, toilet paper, personnel. I'm talking not buying police cars. That was $99,000. Not doing this capital improvement project, and I don't have them off the top of my head. So we didn't spend that money. That all adds up to the $800,000. It's not the operational cost.
Just within the last month since diesel spiked, how much is have you noticed the hit from cost of materials, the cost of goods,
Yes.
and the budget
Yes.
already?
Yeah, and
That's a scary thing to think about. And
definitely is.
coming here.
Especially when you're looking at asphalt, anything that has to do with oil. But to give an example, and thanks for bringing that up, the fire chief during a staff meeting, and it was not just Kale, but they're always talking about how do we save money. And we're working on a MOU with the county to share their fueling facilities because they buy it in bulk, they get it discounted. And if we all buy it, they buy in bulk for us also. The more you buy in bulk, the lower that cost is. So working on that with them currently, so we fuel our vehicles at their facility to save us money. Now, you're not talking a ton of money, but if we can save 20, 30 cents a gallon over a year, that's some savings. Over 3 to 5 years, it starts to add up. And that's when I talk about it's going to take 3 to 5, maybe longer, to get back to where you were financially. That's how you're going to do it is incrementally. Any other goals or feedback?
I would like to add that you guys have done an amazing job getting the budget down to where you've gotten it down. And from what I understand, it already is at bare bones. I don't know that there's a lot left to cut.
Yeah, I would put forward that to cut anything, we'd have to reduce services where we're at now, especially when you have the rising cost. Even that the insurance guy, Kyle Becker, even though Kyle was able to get us a good rate, even if we'd have stayed at the $1,000 deductible, that was higher than what we budgeted. I mean, those costs aren't going down, but because the commission approved a risk management reserve fund, we were able to raise that. And again, that's a cost saving, and those add up year over year.
So I guess in terms of initial budget formation, I guess I would like to see something created with the flat mill levy to start with.
Okay.
So we can get a baseline and then start going through it.
Starting, and Kelsey's online, but so I may have this wrong, May 4th, I believe is when they start meeting with department heads and submitting their budget requests. So during the month of May, we'll be working on request. By June 15th, we get the valuation. We'll be able to take that valuation and match it with what those requests are. Then we have to, okay, if our requests are more than what that valuation is going to bring in at a flat levy, let's say, for example, then we have to reduce. If it's not, then the decision is, do you lower the levy or do you put money aside for other things? But we can bring that back to you.
Do you, because June 15th we'll get the estimated valuation. Do you recall last year what the discrepancy was between the estimated valuation and the final valuation?
TIF, and it's just a certification. So the estimated valuation was, and I have it in here, was $70,552,000. When it was certified, it was $70,554,000. But then when you take off the TIF, that was I don't know, $700,000. So it knocked us down to 69 million. So about 0.4 of a mil is that different. Remember, it can go the other way also if you have delinquencies and what. And 30 of those mills or 34 of those mills are only 70% of that entire money that we levy, just the city, not the total, goes to the general fund. The rest goes to the library, airport, debt service, and our apparatus. Capital improvements and equipment reserve, those.
Anything further for now?
I guess, Mayor Ryan, I'd be kind of curious to know what your goals are. I think last year I was vehemently advocating for a cut, and then you voted with me, but didn't provide any useful input to actually cutting the budget. So I'm curious if that's your goal again, or what your plans are.
Yeah, I guess last year my direction was to keep the mill levy flat. That's what I had stated.
But you didn't do anything to actually affect that. So I guess if that is your goal, are you going to, I guess, assist in that process this year, or are you just going to vote against the budget if it doesn't meet your goals?
No, I'll absolutely assist. I assisted quite a bit last year.
Yeah, there are a lot of input from the commission.
Yeah, and a lot of that happens, behind the scenes. It's not all happening right here.
Correct.
Through
Yeah.
department director meetings, meetings with you and Kelsey. So
It'd be no different than like when I meet with Commissioner Kohoff and get his recommendations on where he think we should cut. I got quite a few of those. But I do get the input from all the commissioners. Okay, if you think of anything else.
okay. Our next item under heading 8 new business is 8A. Consider approval of ordinance number 26-3481, an ordinance rezoning certain property located within the parcel generally described as 1306 North Campbell Street from R1 low density residential district to C3 general commercial district, and amending the zoning map of the city of Abilene, Kansas. Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director Zook.
Good afternoon. We received this application for rezoning back in February. We've been working with Becky Rankin of Abilene Animal Hospital since November timeframe on this. So the situation we have now is the parcel is currently for sale, and it is basically a perfect time for them to look into future business expansion. They're currently in negotiations for purchasing the property upon successful rezoning. And in the future, they would like to pursue development of the parcel into kennel boarding. That's just a 3-year game plan, I think, at this moment. But if that were to happen, that would require a conditional use permit. And it would go back in front of the Planning Commission and City Commission at that time. So as of right now, we're just looking at the rezoning for this. The Planning Commission held a public hearing back on April 7th and recommended approval with the rezoning with a vote of 6-0. The 14-day protest period expired on April 21st and no protests were received. Staff report to the Planning Commission and a copy of those unapproved minutes were attached to the agenda packet for your reference. We didn't receive any citizen comments prior to the Planning Commission meeting, but we did have 2 residents within that area that did attend and express their concerns, just with noise, with gravel, dust, things like that are already legally legally non-conforming. Also in the packet was a survey. If this were to be successful and the sale would go through, there will essentially be a lot split. So there are roughly 45 feet behind the FSA office off of 14th Street. That parking currently is on the 1306 North Campbell parcel. So if this is successful, that 45 feet will go with the FSA office and the remainder would go to Abilene Animal Hospital if they choose to pursue purchasing it. We did have some reservations on the timing as far as rezoning now and waiting for the conditional use permit. I did advise Becky of the Abilene Animal Hospital to wait because typically conditional use permits are only valid for the first year. And then they'd have to go back and redo them a few years later. So I did advise her to wait on that. There was some reservations from the planning commissioners as far as that timing and the possibility of them rezoning it now, purchasing it, and then in the future selling it. Those are valid concerns, but I think that can be the case for any rezoning case that we do. The one that we just did for KinderConnect, it rezoned. He could eventually sell it, parcel it out, sell it, things like that. The Northwest 14th, the Windy Trails RV Park, we rezoned that, did a conditional use permit, and it sat for a few years, no RV park, and now it's for sale. So it's kind of, we don't have a magic 8 ball to tell what's going to happen. So they have every intent in a few years to pursue that. I think that is all I have. Becky is in the attendance today. If you have any questions on that, and as well as any questions for me, I'll try to answer those.
Is there any zoning that allows for the kennel by right?
No, I don't. Well, I think that is let me pull my table here real quick. It is allowed in the C1 and C2 district. But to stay compatible along the Northwest 14th corridor, everything for the majority is C3, just general commercial district along that area.
I guess my concern is for Abilene Animal Hospital that if they close on the property and their plan is to do this, then that they're not allowed to, or they don't say for whatever reason, the conditional use permit wouldn't get approved. It seems like, with the current planning commission, that's not a concern. They just approved this unanimously. And so I don't think as a city commission, I would have any problem approving it. I guess my only concern is that they're able to actually do what they plan to do. So I don't know, I guess how the rest of the commission feels on that, but if there was a good case for making that allowed by right, I would be open to that. I imagine that's another visit back to the commission. I know that site fairly well. I used to walk there. I lived a couple blocks away. And like there's storage units across the street. So it's not like it's, I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what character we want to preserve in C1 versus C3, but that also has industrial properties along that row too, or ones that function like industrial properties, whether or not they are labeled as such. So I don't really have any concern personally about that being a C1 if that's what it takes to be allowed by right. Again, I think that's a fine use, and I know you already do this right now in the property that you have. So I know that you're a responsible operator, and unless someone gets annoyed by someone walking their dog, they're not going to be upset with whatever Abilene Animal Hospital plans to do here. So I guess we probably, it's kind of up to you, I guess. I'm more than happy to approve this as C3. And if you need to go back to the planning commission and they deny a CUP, I'd rezone it to C1 in a year if that's what it takes for you to be able to do what you want. I don't know again, we don't really have any control over that. I think we'd want to know what could be done there with the C1 and maybe be a little bit judicious there. But I think we'd like you to expand your business if possible.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we would be boarding dogs on the property. So there wouldn't be dogs outside at night, but there would definitely be dogs housed on the property and outside during the day. There'd be a tall fence, but there would be dogs outside. So it would need to be rezoned to something that would allow for that. So we don't, if it's gonna get rezoned to commercial, but we couldn't have dogs on the property, I guess that's an issue we haven't addressed. But Harry did tell us that we would have to basically have the conditional use permit for the dogs. But even if we got that today, we didn't build a building this year, which we're not going to, we'd have to do it again, whenever we built the building. So yeah, whatever it would need to be rezoned to actually have dogs on the property would be ideal. And yeah, again, you're right. That is what we have now. When we have a vet clinic, the dogs go outside, they go potty back inside. So it would be the same, but definitely on a larger scale, as far as that's concerned.
I'm going to interject really quickly. I was looking at the wrong line item that I had already highlighted. And kennel boarding is prohibited in C1 and C2. It must have a conditional use in C3 and C4. So that clears that up. I apologize.
So that was the reasoning for
Wrong?
C3.
Yes. So C3, C4 is obviously the central business district downtown, but
Okay.
it would have to
And-
be C3 to get that allowed to do a conditional use in that district.
And Dr. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Dr. Rankin, there were a couple, so first read it and then I read your letter in the packet as well.
Yeah.
Talks about, so you're gonna have them outside sometimes during the day, obviously.
Mhm.
You're already addressing the site issues with the opaque fence
Mhm.
or fencing. Can you speak to, like, I've never owned a kennel, so I don't know how this works, but when you do exercise them out there during the day, is somebody out there with them or are they just let out or how's that?
Yeah, so almost there doesn't legally have to be,
Mhm.
but there would be someone with the dogs all the time, just because dogs will be dogs.
Sure.
So we'd probably have 2 outdoor areas, probably a large dog area, a small dog area. There'd be groups of dogs together, kind of like doggy daycare. And again, we're not there yet to be able to do something like this. This is just this property's there. It's the only adjacent property to our business that is ever likely to be for sale. And so we're just trying to capitalize on that.
Is there a head count on number of animals or anything like that with the conditional use permit or any other concerns that we might have going
Nothing
forward?
that comes to mind, but during that conditional use process, that's where the planning commission would set conditions that you'd have to have the 90% density of the screening. You'd have to have certain things within the site plan. So that will all condition wise will go from the planning commission and then to come to you guys for final approval.
If there's no more discussion, I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 26-3481, an ordinance rezoning certain property located within the parcel generally described as 1306 North Campbell from R1 Low Density Residential District to C3 General Commercial District and amending the zoning map of the city of Abilene, Kansas.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we do a roll call vote. Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff.
Aye.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Thank you. Do we have any additional department reports to add or just what was in the packet?
Yeah, I just wanted
Okay.
to, besides what's in the packet, let the commission know that I've appointed Julie Effenbeck as the city's municipal court judge effective May 8th. Ms. Effenbeck brings over 30 years of legal experience. She's been licensed in Nebraska since 1990 and in Kansas since 2004. She's operated her own law practice since 1997 and has extensive courtroom experience. Currently, she serves as the city attorney for Belleville, Kansas, and as an indigent defense counsel for the city of Salina Municipal Court. She's focused her work on municipal court matters, giving her both a prosecution and a defense perspective. She holds a Juris Doctor from the University of Nebraska College of Law and a Bachelor of Science from Kearney State College. I'm confident that she'll serve the city well in this position. So she begins on May 8th. She'll be here tomorrow. The Chief's here, I believe, to Wednesday to meet with court staff and take a look at the court and all that. So
When you said you appointed Julie, I was wondering when Julie
Yeah.
Roller Weeks had time to get her JD.
also, when I sat down, I saw that the governor just announced that she has vetoed House Bill 2043. And in that, when you want to get out of here, I just wanted to have it included to the context of what we've been talking about as far as the budget. But when she, in her message on vetoing it, She says that since 2012, when the state had their tax experiment, at times when the state had no money to do anything, you might remember that they really increased how much cities had to and counties had to contribute to capers because they weren't contributing to it. But she said the state responded by among other things, cutting support to local communities for vital services, leaving the counties and cities to pick up the slack. Those additional burdens make it very difficult for municipalities to hold the line on property taxes. So that House bill does not impact us. So we'll stay with the truth and taxation bill that we've been operating under. And then finally, and we're not going to let Brad up here to talk about it, but Union Pacific is scheduled to start work tomorrow. We can't let Brad get up here, otherwise it'd be 6 o'clock.
Was there any, I think you spoke on this at the last meeting. Is there going to be any city cost for that?
For the Union Pacific? Yeah, about $3,500 in materials.
I would consider a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion to adjourn.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Well, I guess during discussion, we'll point out that the industrial park we don't have final design back. If everyone's amenable to holding off on the study session for that piece of it until we have the final design in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the cost.
So no study session today is what you're suggesting?
Right.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay. We have no further commission discussion. Move to roll call vote. Commissioner Weisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff,
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. We are adjourned.